This is just a quick spur-of-the-moment video on what I would call fads in flat Earth. Um, Mainly, there have been others such as which map is right, various theories of different aspects such as how uh, gyroscopes work or whatnot. But people tend to jump on these bandwagons and not think, and sometimes they just take off with an idea and run with it without really critically examining it. And the most recent one that really caught on fast, which of course raised a red flag with me, was a video called "There Are No Forests on Earth." Now the original was done by someone with a thick Russian accent, and the audio was low, so someone made an improved version. I think it was Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole made an improved version of the audio, but then they made this one of the English voiceover, which was very helpful, and I was finally able to wade through it. But the premise of this fad is that because mesas and other similar structures in rock resemble tree stumps, as you see here in this still shot of part of the video, that they must have once been actual trees. Now, the basic problem is the same one with evolutionary theory, where if you have a similarity of structure, then they must be related somehow. But it should come as no surprise in general that all living things have DNA. They have that in common because they're all commonly designed. That's the language of life. So you're going to find a lot of overlap. As I've said before, supposedly humans share 50% genetically with bananas. So similarity is what we expect to find. But what creates all the diversity of life is that little percentage, whatever it may be, of differences. It's like supposedly, although the percent keeps changing, humans and chimpanzees are very much closely related because of all the similarities. But the differences are huge. Even though they're a tiny percentage, allegedly, of genetic divergence, it makes a big difference. Yeah, we have, 2 arms, 2 legs, and similar internal organs and similar skeletal structure. The differences are really, really important, however percentage smaller they may be. So the point is, in principle, we have a general rule of thumb to go by on the fact that similarity of structure does not mean similarity of origin. And so it is with this latest flash mob arrival of the idea that these rocks were once trees. And if we know something about how things petrify, then we'll have a better understanding. Petrification is just where minerals that are found in water leak through or on something, and eventually the something, which is made of less durable material, is replaced, not morphed. It doesn't turn into rock, it is replaced by rock, and there's a difference. And the thing that's being replaced retains its shape long enough for the minerals to form that same shape, but the original material disappears because it's not as durable as the rock. Now here's a little article on how these stalagmites and stalactites form. Stalactites are the ones coming down from the ceiling. You could think of C as ceiling, and the G for ground. Stalagmites are on the ground, and basically what's happening is that the mineralized water drips to the ground and makes the one coming up from the ground, and then some of it sticks to the top and makes the one coming to the top, and sometimes they meet. Here we have an example of those, and you would think maybe this is some living thing that grows, because we do know they grow, and however people may disagree on the rate of growth, but we can see here that they do sort of grow. But this doesn't mean they were once living things with DNA in them. This is a very quick little thing I'll just read here. Stalactites form when water containing dissolved calcium bicarbonate from the limestone rock drips from the ceiling of a cave. As the water comes into contact with the air, some of the calcium bicarbonate precipitates back into limestone to form a tiny ring, which gradually elongates to form a stalactite. Stalagmites grow upwards from the drips that fall to the floor. They spread outwards more, so they have a wider, flatter shape than stalactites, but they gain mass at roughly the same rate. Limestone stalactites form extremely slowly, but that I disagree with. That is not true. We have things such as miners' hats that have mineralized in less than 100 years. Same thing with wooden tools. They can mineralize very quickly. And radiometric dating has a bunch of issues of its own. So that part, of course, that's their evolutionary theory speaking there, so I discount that. Stalactites can also form by a different chemical process. Well, that's the only chemical process as far as I know. When water drips through, well, not just concrete, but anything, and this is much faster. Stalactites under concrete bridges can grow as fast as a centimeter per year. So this is a basic cursory look at how the things form at all. And we have minerals in water dripping through something else that, chemical processes happening, and they form shapes based on how fast this process is happening. And if there's anything else in the way, such as a miner's hat or a tool, that it will drip around or on or sometimes through if it's porous enough and take on the shape of that thing. Here's a close-up of one kind that looks for all the world like mushrooms growing from the ground. Well, according to the thesis of the No Forests on Flat Earth videos, this means that they were once mushrooms. Big ones. Okay? Well, not necessarily big, but the point is that you can't just go by the shape. There are other causes. Even though this looks for all the world like it used to be mushrooms, they obviously weren't. And all we have here is a difference of scale when we come to these mesas and other similar structures. So when we know that many of the rocks form that way, that they will take on a similar structure because we're all on the same planet here, and we have the same physical laws governing everything, and so the fact that we might see octagons or columns and a widening at the base, yeah, it looks like a tree, but it also looks like a stalagmite. Now, what did it drip from? Who knows? It's no less of a viable theory than that these were once trees. And look at how flat that was cut off, how even. So if somebody felled this giant tree at one time, which obviously had to happen or the whole thing would still be there, where are the branches and the logs and the debris? There should be something else all around this thing for a great distance to account for, even if it was hauled away, and it got to be hauled somewhere, and there should be some evidence that things were hauled away and they didn't clean up the grounds perfectly. So there should be at least a few giant logs laying around and giving some evidence of this thing. And what petrified it? Trees, living things, don't turn into rock, as I said. They are replaced by rock in certain conditions. So in order for this to have been a tree that turned into rock, was replaced by rock, there had to have been some kind of slow dripping or passage of mineralized water. Now, if you want to believe that this had to have happened, then you're actually supporting the Great Flood. That there was a lot of water flowing and a lot of it had to mineralize, and this is also where I believe the fossil record was formed. There's a natural sorting action that happens when you have fast-moving water, and what the lower layers typically have are the most simple marine organisms, and that's what you find in the rock layers. And above that, you get more and more complex creatures because they have more ability to get out of the way. So you will find mammals trying to run for high ground, and so they're buried last. And this explains very superficially the fossil record. In the same way, if you've got something becoming mineralized, the minerals have to come from somewhere, and they have to be flowing. And that would account for the shape, and the fact that we see here with this mesa, we see a widening at the base, is not only from the way trees grow up from the ground, but also because that's how stalagmites form. They widen out the base because something dripped from above and went down. Now in this case, if this was a tree, where are the roots? Trees have roots. So you should be able to dig deep underground in these mountains and find what we typically consider tree roots. Some people say, well, these are like, natural veins of various minerals and things like that. But the tree kind of structure is found in everything, even crystals. Crystals grow, but they're not alive. And they form very regular segmented pieces along the way as they grow. That's just the nature of crystals, but they were never something else. So I find the logical and scientific basis for this no forest on Earth really, really difficult to sustain. I just think it's another sideshow, another fad, another laser light for the cats to chase. And the fact that everybody jumped on it so hard and fast and saying, oh, this is mind-blowing and I'm enlightened and this explains everything. No, it explains nothing. The only thing it does is expose how gullible people are who think they're awake to chase after any little laser dot that comes along and not have any way to determine true from false, to do the scientific method, which is legitimate. It's just observation and repetition, and that's something we can do with the mineralization process. It's not something we can do with speculation, baseless assumption that something that looks like a tree must have been a tree. And the fact that people are so quick to just jump on this and run with it without critically thinking is disturbing, to say the least. If you want to make Flat Earth look bad, if you didn't think it was bad already, this is the sort of thing that'll do it, because we're so, as a community, so eager to chase after the latest thing and to find some breakthrough that we have abandoned all reason and standard and methods of determining true from false. And that's, if you want to subvert a movement and take it from the truth and make it look crazy, this is a prime example of how to do it. And I just hope we learn a lesson from this, that if you don't go into any kind of investigation with an objective, consistent method of determining true from false, you're going to run in circles and look like a bunch of clowns at the circus. So, and I don't think necessarily that everyone involved in those sorts of activities is a shill or subversive. I think people are just not being critical thinkers, and that all anyone has to do to start something like this is put out a slick video and present an idea that seems to appeal to what is loosely called New Age theology, I would call it. It is a religion. It's, we have people praying to crystals and asking crystals for help, and yet somehow they think this is much more intellectual and scientific than praying to God for help, the creator, the designer, the programmer. So reason has flown out the window at this point, but I do believe that that there is something to be gained by the pursuit of flat earth theory, but this is not how you do it.